Alright, let's talk about the Muffuletta. New Orleans' love letter to Sicilian flavors and the ultimate sandwich flex. This bad boy starts with a round loaf of sesame top bread, straight out of the island of the sun. But the real magic? That signature olive salad, a mix of olives, celery, cauliflower, carrots, peppers, and every herb and spice you can think of. It's tangy, zesty, and spreads like a dream. Stacked with salami, ham, Swiss, provolone, and mortadella, the Muffuletta is a tower of meaty, cheesy, briny perfection. They sell it in quarters, halves, or full-size slabs, so bring your appetite. Honestly, this sandwich isn't just food, it's a Sicilian American masterpiece on a plate. Any story, or at least any true story, about the Muffuletta starts right here at Central Grocery. You see, back in the early 1900s, Sicilian immigrants flooded into the French Quarter, bringing with them olive salad, cured meats, and serious food skills. One of them, Salvatore Lupo, opened Central Grocery in 1906, right next to the French market. Seeing his fellow Sicilian farmers and vendors from the market coming into his store, buying bread, ham, cheese, salami, and olive salad separately, Lupo had a light bulb moment. What if I just put this all together? And boom, the Muffuletta sandwich was born right there. Central Grocery took a 1-2 punch from Mother Nature in 2021. First, Hurricane Ida came through in August and messed up the roof. And then, just when you think that the universe might give them a break, along came Hurricane Nicholas in September to pour a little extra misery on top. But owners Tommy and Frank Tusa weren't about to let a century of Muffuletta making fade. They started the rebuilding process on the store and kept selling their Muffulettas in area locations while also shipping sandwiches nationwide. And in 2024, with the restoration completed, Central Grocery's doors were open and the deliciousness started to flow once again. So next time you're in the French Quarter, head to 923 Decatur, grab a Muffuletta the size of your head, and taste a slice of New Orleans history. Some traditions are just too good to quit. In the late 19th and earliest 20th century, Sicilians poured into New Orleans via the Palermo route, seeking a fresh start. It wasn't just any destination, it was a pipeline. They set roots, brought traditions, and added their flavor to a city already rich in culture. Their journey wasn't just a move, it was the start of a legacy. Alright y'all, now if you're in the French market and craving a Muffuletta, you gotta make your way to Bay 11 and hit up Alberto's Cheese and Wine Bistro. Now, Alberto's does a killer traditional Muffuletta, no doubt, but the real star of the show? The veggie Muffuletta. Yeah, you heard me right. Mozzarella, provolone, olive salad, lettuce, tomato, and avocado, all stacked on that classic sesame bread. It's the kind of sandwich that makes you question everything you thought you knew about the Muffuletta. That's the magic of Alberto's. It's not just a sandwich shop, it's a perfect example of how culture and flavors collide in the Big Easy. Mediterranean meets NOLA, old school meets fresh twist, and somehow it all just works. Whether you're a diehard meat eater or just open to something different, one bite of that veggie Muffuletta and you'll get it. So next time you're wandering the French market, stop by Alberto's, grab a Muffuletta, maybe a glass of wine, or in my case, a Coca-Cola, and soak in a little taste of New Orleans with a Mediterranean kick. You won't regret it. Only New York City surpasses New Orleans in Sicilian American immigrant numbers. But New Orleans offers more than stats. It's about soul here. Sicilian culture shapes the Big Easy's food, music, and identity, standing proudly alongside jazz and gumbo in the city's essence. Let me tell you about the Napoleon House, a joint so New Orleans, it might as well come with a jazz soundtrack and beads year-round. Y'all, it's been owned by the Empanola family since 1914. The atmosphere alone makes you want to grab a drink and settle in for a long while. But we're here to talk about the real star of the show, the Muffuletta. Now, here's where Napoleon House flexes on the competition. They warm their Muffuletta. That's right, these culinary visionaries took one look at a cold sandwich and said, "Nah, let's turn this up to 11. Warming it brings out the flavors in a way that's borderline sinful. And guess what? They were the first to do it. They didn't just serve a sandwich, they innovated the sandwich game. That's like finding out your grandma invented cornbread. So do yourself a favor, hit up Napoleon House, order a Muffuletta, and toast to the geniuses who decided that sandwiches deserve to be hot, messy, and unforgettable. By the early 20th century, so many Sicilians had settled in the French Quarter that people joked that it should be called the Sicilian Quarter. They weren't just passing through, they opened shops, shared their traditions, and turned the quarter into a little Sicily with a Creole twist. The name French Quarter didn't change, but the Sicilian influence stuck, and you can still taste it today. The Creole House sits right there on Canal at the Cater, which means you're going to get a lot of tourists wandering in looking for authentic New Orleans cuisine. That's just the nature of the beast. And thank God for the tourists, right? Without them, we'd all have to get real jobs. Yikes. But if you're a local who happens to be in the area, don't write it off as just another French Quarter tourist trap, because these folks know what they're doing when it comes to classic New Orleans eats. Now, let's talk about the Muffuletta. Creole House is out here pressing that thing until the cheese is melted, just right, with all that salty, briny, meaty goodness stacked between those sesame seed speckled slices of bread that'll make you rethink every sad sandwich you've ever had. It's the kind of meal that makes you want to sit back, loosen your belt, and wonder why you don't eat like this every day. Until you remember, cholesterol, it's a thing. The place itself has some history. Turns out, this is the oldest existing building on Canal Street, dating back to 1821, when it was a storehouse. Now, it's part of the Creole Cuisine restaurant group, which runs a bunch of big-name spots around the city, but swears they don't just crank out cookie-cutter menus. And honestly, you can tell. There's personality here. It's a casual seafood joint, yeah, but they know what they're doing. So, if you find yourself on Canal, dodging confused tourists and street performers of varying skill levels, do yourself a favor. Step inside the Creole House, order that Muffuletta, and let the cheese melt your worries away. The heart of the neighborhood was the French market, where Sicilian immigrants hustled as vendors and merchants. They sold fresh produce, seafood, and goods, filling the air with the aroma of bread, olives, and pasta sauces. Their Sicilian voices mixed with the city's bustle, turning the market into a vibrant blend of Sicily and New Orleans. Now down here, we don't stand on ceremony, unless it's the kind that involves a second line and a brass band loud enough to wake the dearly departed. NOLA Poor Boys doesn't have time for pretense because it's busy doing what needs doing. Feeding the hungry, the hungover, and the hopelessly in love with the kind of food that doesn't ask for permission before it takes over your soul. This place looks like someone threw a party and never bothered to clean up. But that's exactly the point. There's a certain beauty in that kind of chaos. Mardi Gras beads tangled in the rafters like relics of past mistakes. Faded saints memorabilia tacked onto the walls, already drowning in stories. And a menu that reads like a greatest hits album of Gulf Coastal excesses. You don't come here for artfully drizzled reductions or some sad little microgreens trying to act important. You come here to be reminded that good food is loud, messy, and utterly without shame. Now let's talk business. Bourbon Street? Now Bourbon Street is where people go to make mistakes. But NOLA Poor Boys is where they come to make amends. This is where you stumble in after a long night of bad decisions and find solace. Over 45 poor boy options stare you in the face like a roll call of salvation. Whether it's catfish, roast beef debris, or something smothered to the point of spiritual transcendence, you could close your eyes, point, and still find yourself blessed. But even among saints, there are legends. And here, that legend wears the name Muffuletta. And if you hadn't had one here, well, God help you, because you've been walking through life missing something vital. It's a sandwich with its sleeves rolled up and its fists clenched, unapologetic in its size, its weight, and its sheer audacity. Thick rounds of sesame bread cradled a mountain of salami, ham, mortadella, and provolone, all held together with that sinful layer of olive salad that don't give a dang about your delicate palate. It ain't trying to be dainty. It ain't here to impress. It's here to do what New Orleans food has always done. Fill you up, set you right, and give you enough strength to make it to the end of the next round of trouble. And that's the thing about NOLA Poor Boys. It understands that eating ain't just about hunger. It's about recovery, about pleasure, about honoring the long, storied tradition of getting full in a way that makes you feel alive. It's not a restaurant, it's a lifeline. And if you don't know, well, buddy, it's about time you found out. On March 19th, St. Joseph's Day, the Italian-American Marching Club hits the French Quarter, mixing old-school tradition with New Orleans party vibe. It's music, dancing, and a whole lot of community spirit, wrapped in Italian pride. What more could you ask for? Louisiana Pizza Kitchen isn't your typical pizza joint, and that's clear from the jump start. Tucked away into the Rue Carré, near the French Market, it's the kind of place that takes its pizza seriously. Not in some fussy, Instagrammable way, but in that old world, wood-fired, thin crust, respect your ingredients kind of way. You won't find any conveyor belts, mass-produced, sauce-drenched slabs here. No, sir. This pizza is for folks who know better. And while they got all the classics, the real star, the one that makes locals smirk knowingly while tourists fumble around with their maps, is the Muffuletta pizza. Now, there's something downright poetic about slapping a New Orleans institution onto an old-school pizza crust. The Muffuletta has been holding this city together for over a century, born right around the corner in Central Grocery, fed to dock workers, and carried forth by anyone who understands the simple genius of cured meat, cheese, and olive salad. But LPK had the audacity, the vision, the sheer Louisiana gumption to say, why not put this on a pizza? And it works. Lord God Almighty does it work. The crust is cracker thin, baked in that wood-fired oven until it's just kissed by a little char. No thick, doughy nonsense here. This is the kind of base that lets the toppings do the talking. And what a conversation they had. Italian salami and prosciutto bringing all that rich, melt-in-your-mouth decadence. Provolone cheese, because what's a Muffuletta without that creamy, slightly sharp bite? The mozzarella is some of the best I've ever had, and I'm talking New York, Chicago good. There is buffalo milk mixed in that gives it that perfect pull of perfection. But the real kicker, the thing that ties it all together, is that olive salad tapenata. Briny, garlicky, herby perfection that seeps into every bite, the way rainwater finds the cracks in the sidewalk. You take a bite, and for a second, you're not in a pizza joint anymore. You're in an old Italian market, surrounded by barrels of olives and the scent of fresh bread, knowing full well that life doesn't get much better than this. And the best part, this isn't some overpriced tourist trap abomination. The good folks at LPK keep it real. Local ingredients, fair prices, and a respect for tradition that's rare in a town where change goes fast and hard. Louisiana Pizza Kitchen is the kind of place where the pizza tastes like it was made by someone who actually gave a damn. And that, my friends, is worth more than all the neon lights and daiquiri stands in the world. In New Orleans, Sicilian families honor Saint Joseph with altars rooted in a Sicilian tradition of gratitude. These elaborate displays of bread, pastries, and seafood symbolize both faith and community, each item having meaning. Bread shaped like the tools honoring Saint Joseph, a carpenter, fava beans symbolizing luck and resilience, and sweets expressing gratitude for the blessings bestowed. Mena's Palace has been a fixture in the French Quarter since the Eisenhower administration, a place where locals slide into well-worn booths and tourists stumble in off the street, lured by the scent of something sizzling in a pan. It's not a fancy joint, never has been, never will be, but it's the kind of place that knows exactly what it is. A New Orleans diner that serves up a darn fine plate of red beans and rice, a fried catfish that could make a grown man cry, and a muffuletta that's worth writing home about. Now listen, if you came to Mena's looking for a traditional muffuletta on that big old sesame seed Sicilian loaf, well, bless your heart, but that ain't what we're doing here. Not today, it isn't. This is a Muffuletta Poor Boy, plain and simple, and it don't give a dang about tradition, except the kind that tastes good. This is French bread, crisp enough to let you know it means business, soft enough to soak up all the good stuff without falling apart in your hand. And Lord, the good stuff. It's piled up high, stacked like it has something to prove. Ham, salami, mozzarella, Swiss, all working together like they've been drinking in the same bar for years, man. But the real boss here, the real boss, that's the homemade olive salad. It ain't shy, it ain't polite. It's briny, garlicky, and tangy enough to make your taste buds sit up straight. It seeps into the bread just the right amount, giving it some soul without turning the whole thing into a swamp. You can call it what you want, a muffuletta, a poor boy, or some glorious love child of both. But whatever you name it, just know it's worth writing home about. Heck, it's even worth driving home about. You can sit here, eat your muffuletta, and let the world pass by outside. Because here at Mena's, time moves just a little bit slower. And the muffuletta, well, it ain't going anywhere. It's been holding down this corner of the quarter for over 70 years. And it'll still be here long after the last tourist has wandered back to Bourbon Street, wondering why that sandwich they had at the airport just don't hit like this one. If you're in New Orleans and craving some Italian-American pride, check out the American Italian Cultural Center in the CBD. The revamped museum tells the story of Sicilian immigrants and their lasting impact on the city's culture. And don't miss the Piazza d'Italia next door, a 1978 tribute to their contributions and a great spot to soak up some Sicilian pride. Well, let me tell you about Verti Mart, a New Orleans institution that has been keeping it real since 1968. This place ain't your average corner store. Oh no sir. It's a full-blown neighborhood lifeline. Need some paper towels, a pint of ice cream, or a 6-pack of beer at 3 a.m.? They got you. Hungry for a poor boy that'll make you rethink every sandwich you ever had? They got you there too. And they do it 24/7, like the Waffle House of a grocery deli hybrid. Ordering at Verti Mart isn't just a transaction, it's a ritual. You step up, nod like you belong, and say it straight, no hesitation. The cashier hands you a receipt like a benediction and says, 20 minutes. But this is New Orleans. Time bends like sin on Bourbon Street. Could be 20, could be sooner, could be fate. You don't argue, you just walk outside, gripping that little slip like a ticket to paradise. And there it is, across the street, staring back at you like it knows your name. The NOLA House, or as I like to call it, the Devil House. Ain't no real reason to look at it, but you do anyway. Because that place pulls at the back of your brain like a bad dream you half remember. Standing there, waiting for a sandwich, contemplating all manner of atrocities. Seems like a uniquely New Orleans experience. But then, before your mind can wander too deep into the abyss, before you can even get comfortable with the weight of history pressing down on you.
133, 143.
Oh yeah, that's me. Time to get my sandwich. Now let's talk about the spicy muffuletta, or as they call it, the Bam Bam. It's their take on the classic, but they went and spiced it up because this is New Orleans and mild just ain't in their vocabulary. That sesame seed bread, it's the real deal. And the whole thing got enough heat to make you sit up straight, but not enough to call the fire department. It's the kind of sandwich you'll dream about later. Verti Mart could change things, but they don't, because they take care of their people. It's the kind of place where customers and employees know each other by name. The wait may be a little long, but good food takes time, and you'll wait gladly because you know it's worth it. The owners, solid folks who live by the golden rule. This isn't just a deli, it's part of the heartbeat of New Orleans. So next time you're in town, swing on by. Bring your appetite, your patience, and maybe a second stomach. Nick LaRocca, a New Orleans-born jazz musician and leader of the original Dixieland Jazz Band, who are considered to be the very first recorded jazz group, releasing Livery Stable Blues in 1917. The son of poor Sicilian immigrants, LaRocca taught himself the cornet against his father's wishes, drawn to the brass band sound of his hometown, New Orleans. All right, we're at Empanola's. And I know what you're going to say. Weren't you just at Empanola's? And yes, I was in my last episode, which was my Mardi Gras guide for 2025. And Empanola's? Hey, I'm going to be here again. Because if you think I'm going to pass out on the opportunity to eat a meat pie, then brother, you don't know me at all. So, let's talk about empanadas. Those little pockets of crispy, golden brown, flaky goodness. We Southerners understand the art of stuffing meat and cheese into dough. It's a language we speak fluently. The Natchitoches meat pie is the closest thing that Louisiana has to an official state handshake. And somewhere between the Spanish colonists, the Acadian exiles, and whatever Cajun mad scientists first decided to throw crawfish into a hot pocket and bake it, Louisiana found itself in a long-term love affair with handheld meat pastry. And then came Empanola, the kind of place you have to appreciate because you know they get it. They took the old world traditions of South America, kissed them with a little Louisiana spice, and let the magic happen. Empanadas for every mood, every craving, every occasion. But let's focus on what matters here, the Muffuletta empanada. This, my friends, is the kind of thing that makes you believe there is goodness left in the world. A Muffuletta, New Orleans' greatest contribution to the sandwich arts, is already a perfect thing. But Empanola, in a moment of culinary brilliance, decided to take all that, seal it in a pastry, and bake it to flaky perfection. A Muffuletta with structural integrity, an antipasta explosion wrapped in a warm golden shell. You bite into it, and it's everything you want it to be. Salty, cheesy, tangy, with that crispy outer layer, giving way to the rich, meaty core. It's a muffuletta that won't fight you. No oil-drenched bread disintegrating in your hands. No rogue olive rolling off the table like a marble in a cheap haunted house. Just compact, delicious efficiency. And Empanola, they don't do half steps. They bake these fresh, which means you may have to wait a minute. But patience is a virtue. And good things come to those who don't eat gas station Hot Pockets. So yeah, I was just at Empanola, and I'll be back because the world is a chaotic place. But at least we have Muffuletta empanadas. And if that ain't worth celebrating, I don't know what is.
Gigolo, gigolo, the power play. Paid for every dance, selling is romance. Gigolo, 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 gigolo. Gonna say that. It is time.
Rooted in New Orleans jazz, Prima mixed swing and jump blues with his deep Sicilian pride. While others were told to hide their ethnicity, Prima celebrated his roots, opening doors for other Italian-American artists. Frank's restaurant on Decatur Street has been slinging muffulettas for half a century. And buddy, they have dang near perfected the thing. You walk up and it smells like history. Warm bread, briny olives, and that kind of garlic that would ward off a whole coven of French Quarter vampires. It's been a family operation since Frank Galliano Sr. set up shop in 1965, and they still run it like they got something to prove, which, let's be honest, they really don't. They've already won. Now the muffuletta at Frank's, it's the classic Italian sandwich you know and love. But then they toast the dang thing, which is like taking a Cadillac and strapping a jet engine to the back. Genoa salami, ham, Swiss, provolone, and that olive salad, that punchy, tangy, garlic-heavy magic olive salad. But when it's all melted together under a crispy golden brown hunk of Sicilian sesame bread, it just hits differently. Warm cheese pulling apart, the oils from the meat soaking just right into the crust, the olives giving that briny slap. It's a full-body experience, and you'll walk away feeling like you've done something important. And you have, because at any given moment, Frank's is cranking out up to 1,200 of these beauties a week. That's a lot of toasted dreams, y'all. And don't sleep on the rest of the menu. Frank Jr., who actually went to culinary school instead of just inheriting the apron, added some New Orleans soul to the operation. Seafood, Cajun spices, and an award-winning gumbo. But one thing on that menu that I just had to order, the cannoli, because of course I did. I love cannoli. And this one, crunchy shell, smooth ricotta, that little hit of citrus, like getting a hug from a Sicilian grandma who smells like espresso and old leather. I was reading some of these review sites where people were bitching about the service. Whoa, y'all. Simmer down. Let me reassure you that Frank's has great service. It's just that this place is old school New Orleans, and what you may think is gruff is just how some of us are. We don't mean nothing by it. The service here is super quick, friendly, and attentive. So again, simmer down. So next time you're wandering down Decatur Street, staring down the Joni on the Pony statue, wondering where to eat, just go to Frank's. That toasted muffuletta, that's the dream, y'all. The muffuletta isn't just a sandwich. It's a time capsule of Sicilian roots, New Orleans grit, and the kind of culinary ingenuity that turns a meal into a legend. Whether you get it cold, toasted, or with a spicy kick, every bite tells a story of the city's immigrant past, its resilience, and its obsession with good food. From the French market hustle of Little Palermo to the Mardi Gras marches of the Italian American Club. Sicilian culture isn't just an influence here, it's part of the city's bones. The Muffuletta is proof that New Orleans doesn't just borrow flavors, it makes them its own. So next time you're in the Big Easy, do yourself a favor. Find a Muffuletta, take a bite, and taste a piece of history. Because some traditions aren't just worth keeping, they're worth celebrating. One sesame seed crusted, olive stuffed, meat stacked masterpiece at a time.
I want to personally thank you for watching this video. And here's what I want out of you. I want you to subscribe. I want you to follow. I want you to smash that like button. And I want you to share this video far and wide. And remember, it's not goodbye. It's see you next week on Gulf Coastal Connections.